Thanks for tuning into the 6-3 podcast. I'm your host, Joel, and my co-host, Ben. And the Michigan regular season and Big Ten championship is now complete. They get to take on Texas Christian New Year's Eve in the Fiesta Bowl,
Yes.
and with a chance to take on either Ohio State or Georgia in the national championship game. So because of this, I wanted to kind of recap what our 2022 top 50 Michigan football players were. Obviously, we'll rank our top 22 this time. And then it'll be just interesting to kind of refer back to what our preseason picks were, where we put some of these guys.
Yeah.
And then we want to recap the Lions game and their demolition of the Jacksonville Jaguars at Ford Field, where they just dominated every aspect of that game. And we will discuss their hopefully a revenge game against the Minnesota Vikings this coming Sunday. So a lot of good football being played in the state of Michigan right now, and
Yeah.
should be a fun show to kind of chat about that. But yeah, first things first, Ben, what were your thoughts on this Purdue game? Obviously came out a little bit, I don't know, this is kind of rusty. It always seems like the first couple drives, and it was only 14-13 at halftime, and we looked at each other because we watched this game together, and we're like, they're a second half football team. Jesse Minter is going to have all the adjustments they need to make on Jones. Hopefully shut down Aiden O'Connell, and Matt Maccabee didn't have any success in the run game in the second half of the game either. So it just kind of a stereotypical Michigan game. Maybe we expected a little bit more dominance, but by the end of the game, they still won by 20 points. So 21 points.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I think Purdue had a really good plan. I think they played really well. That was one of their better games, especially offensively. And they took advantage of some stuff Michigan was doing, and I thought they would. And O'Connell kind of played out of his mind. This is the first game Michigan's been outgained actually all year from a yardage standpoint. But all it really comes down to, and Michigan kind of adjusted as this. They're playing kind of an NFL style of defense right now, where it's okay to give up yards. Yards don't really mean anything. It's how you tighten up, down in the red zone by the goal line, and if you can get some turnovers. And Michigan won the turnover battle. Will Johnson had 2 interceptions. Both of them were really big.
Yeah.
One of them was down by the goal line, so it completely stopped a drive, and the other one was, when Purdue was coming out from their own goal line, so it set Michigan up with really good field position. So I think it was overall, I mean, they definitely dominated. It just kind of felt, I never really worried about the game. Even, I mean, you're always worried, I guess, but like you never felt like Michigan really had a chance to lose the game though. Unless something catastrophic, like just a complete meltdown happened, then I really didn't think they had as much of a chance to lose the game, which is about what I expected against a team that they're clearly better than. But Purdue's not bad. Purdue's pretty good, and I think they showed some stuff on offense, and they were pulling out all the stops. Fake punt, fake flea flicker. Never seen that before.
Yeah.
They were doing all kinds of stuff to just to keep themselves in it, which is up what you expected, and Michigan kind of weathered the storm through that. And McCarthy played pretty well. Donovan Edwards was great in the second half, especially. So I mean, you can't really complain. They got a chance, and they got 25 days or whatever to 24 days to get better and see where they stand against a very good TCU team. But in a game that they're going to be favored by probably, I mean, the line opened at 9.5. I think it's gone down since a little bit, but they're probably going to be over a touchdown favorite. So,
Yeah. I'm talking about Purdue. I think when I was watching the first couple of drives on offense, it resembled very much what Ohio State did the first couple of drives. A lot of quick screen passes, get the ball to their playmakers in open field, and Michigan didn't really adjust to it that fast in the first 2 drives. I'm sure Minter called in the sidelines and calmed him down. And like you said, they played bend but don't break defense all game. The turnovers came at impeccable times. And like I said, I think they took a little bit out of Ohio State's playbook of what Ohio State did to move the ball on us. in the
Sure.
first couple drives, and
Yeah.
they did too. And we adjusted and I think obviously the better team came out on top, but Purdue gets to take on the SEC runner up. They're playing LSU in their
Yep.
bowl game.
Yep.
And Camping World Stadium in Orlando. I think that's the Cheez It Bowl. So,
Yep.
which, that Cheez It Bowl doesn't sound exciting, but those are not scrub teams. There are way worse bowl games to watch than Purdue LSU for sure.
Yep. Yep. And I mean, the Big Ten has, I think, 6 ranked games in the bowl season, which is the most. So pretty good. Purdue definitely showed something. They definitely didn't like the Big Ten West just doesn't belong. It's I wouldn't say they showed they belonged, but they definitely showed that they were there for the game. They were there. They didn't completely no show like Iowa last year, right? Or completely no show like some of these other Big Ten West teams. It was definitely an entertaining and fun game, even though the outcome I don't think was really ever in doubt. I mean, I know it was a 1-point game at half, but I think everybody kind of was like, all right, like Michigan will figure this out here pretty quickly. And I mean, with 4 minutes into the second half, they were up 28-13. So it was pretty quick.
It'll be nice to kind of remove the divisions in 2 years.
Yeah.
I think obviously Michigan, Ohio State, and probably be playing each other again almost right after, right? I mean, Ohio State
Right.
and Michigan have to play.
Yeah, but then you're adding, UCLA and USC in a couple of years, and that I think that'll add some things to the
Penn State, Wisconsin occasionally just have really good seasons.
Penn State
Iowa's
was
always
Penn State was excellent this year. They dominated the Big Ten except for Michigan and Ohio State. So
yeah. They get a Rose Bowl appearance against Utah, which I think is another really big win for the Big Ten and another good opportunity for them to kind of flex their muscles. But
they do. Yeah.
yeah, they're in a tough division, obviously having to hang out in the East with Ohio State and Michigan every year.
Yeah.
If they weren't going to if they're getting rid of divisions, that's fine. But otherwise, move them around. I don't know.
They gotta. I mean, if they get rid of divisions, I think that's probably the way to go. But I agree with you. If they're not, you gotta adjust something. You gotta put somebody. You gotta. I don't know. It's obvious.
Yeah, I was looking. The West hasn't won the Big Ten championship in 8-9 years.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So
pretty crazy.
Yeah. So like I said, we did do our preseason rankings for the Michigan football team.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to go over it again and make our picks on who was the most impactful player for this regular season. And I think this might be one where we can still say that our first pick in the preseason is probably who belongs first here, and that would probably Blake Corum.
Yeah, I agree. Blake Corum, number 1.
Carried
the team for most of the season, obviously until his injury. Sucks. I think he had a very good chance to be the Heisman Trophy winner if he doesn't get hurt. If he plays the entire game against Ohio State in the Big Ten championship and just does what he's been doing, wouldn't even have to be spectacular. Just his 130, 135 yards, a couple touchdowns. I think he's.
I mean, yeah, if he would have put up Donovan Edwards numbers against Ohio State, that would have sealed the deal.
Right, sealed the deal. So, and he could have. So, yeah, that's frustrating and sad to see that he went down, but he's definitely number 1, I would say.
Who do you put at number 2 here?
Oh man, I feel like this is where the options go.
I feel like I've got one that I like more the most, but
I'm gonna pick Mozzie Smith.
Okay. All right.
If you pull Mozzie Smith off of that defensive line, they're not.
Which that might happen.
Yeah, he's fine. I'm not worried about it.
We'll see what happens.
I'm not worried about it.
Okay.
But if you pull him off that defensive line, I think especially early on this year, because they've worked a lot of guys in as the time's gone, the Mason Grahams, the Rayshon Bennys, those guys have gotten a lot better, but Mozzie Smith anchors that line and he changes everything. Really kind of builds that, run wall up front, and commands doubles. I mean, I know his stats aren't great. They're not bad, but they're not great. As far as like from counting stats.
But you can see his impact on instant replays all the time.
That's not a stats gathering position at all. And he's
It was like knocking Rashawn Gary for that 1 year where he only had like 4.5 sacks, but it's like
I'm like,
he,
yeah, but he's being doubled and tripled every
yeah,
play, right? So, yeah, I mean, I think Mozzie Smith deserves to be there.
just take his guns away.
Yeah, well, I mean, it wasn't loaded. It wasn't loaded.
I already had 2 magazines with him, right?
I did, but shocking. Man owns gun legally and has ammunition with him. Is that? Yeah,
I'm trying
it's
to keep
not.
the black man down. That's what it is, man.
Well, I'm not saying that, but I'm just not surprised it was he had ammo with him. Of course, he had ammo with him.
Um, my second pick would have been, I think I would have probably had Mozzie at 3 or 4, but I would have had Mike Morris
Okay.
here.
Yep.
And I think they've still made it work without him in the last couple games here, but
Yeah.
um, I think Michigan's kind of always had edge rushers they can rotate in, but I think Mike Morris has been that guy that's like,
Mhm.
okay, we have at least one of those guys like Aiden Hutchinson and Ojabo replace because Mike Morris can be at least one of those guys.
Well, yeah. I mean, he won defensive lineman of the year in the Big Ten. I mean, that's
Yeah, and he was
um,
first team coaches, first team media. And
yeah. He's probably from overall probably their best defensive player. Mozzie's probably got an argument, right? But
yeah, Mozzie was first team for both of those too.
yeah, so I would go. I mean, yeah, I agree with him. I agree with that. He was probably my next one, or if not fourth, depending on what side of the ball you want to go with. But if they can get him back for the semifinal, that's such a big um, boost. Just because, I mean, they rushed the passer pretty well against Purdue. I think they had 3 or 4 sacks in the end, but you see his absence. I mean, he's the guy you really have to account for up front. So,
Mhm. Yeah,
um,
who do you like here for?
hmm, JJ McCarthy.
Okay,
I mean,
I don't know if I would have said that 2 weeks ago, but I mean, he's come up huge the last two
yeah,
games
I
for
mean,
sure.
I don't know. Maybe I would have had him down a spot or two, but the kid, I mean, starting quarterback, 12-0 as a starter. He's done everything they've asked of him. He's not turned the ball over. He's made big plays. He's just taken what the defense has given him. He drove him down the field against Illinois to win the game. Um, Beat Ohio State with his arm, basically, and his legs in the second half. Um, can't really say anything else. I mean, he's getting better, right? You're seeing every week you see something new, and he's getting better and he's getting more confident. You can really see the confidence starting to grow, and that's scary because he's not nearly as good as he's going to be, and he's pretty good. The throw he made the Bell for the touchdown um, in the Big Ten championship game might have been the best throw he's made of his in of the year.
Yeah,
The one ball dropped was pretty much as good earlier in the first half, but that was as good of a throw for a touchdown as you'll see. I mean, NFL guys, some NFL guys don't make that throw. So, um, yeah, he's getting better and better, and quarterback of an undefeated team, that's pretty good.
yeah, there's a lot to be said about that. I think for number 5, I'm gonna take Olusegun Oluwatimi.
Yeah.
Obviously the transfer out of Virginia. We actually ranked him third in the preseason. Brian Hayes was ranked second, by the way. And then
Okay.
Eric All, nope, Zach Zinter was 4, Eric All was 5.
Okay.
So, but yeah, Oluwatimi has been, I mean, he's played every main snap. They haven't had to put his backups in unless they're in garbage time. So he's been
Yeah.
healthy all year. Um, and he's fit in really nicely after being a Remington finalist last year at Virginia. He's come over and, I made first team all Big Ten for at least coaches and I think second team media. So yeah, another
Yep.
really good year
He's a
for him.
Remington finalist again. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think he's the best center in the country. He's the best one I've seen. So, um, flawless, seamless, transferred, seamless, stepping in to that role. So really excited that they got him, and we'll see next year. But
And we got a good
that's
tackle next year too in the transfer portal from Arizona State. So that's
yeah,
something.
they did. So they should we have some guys stepping in right after him, but that was a great get in the transfer portal. What is this, number 6?
Yeah.
It won't be Eric All.
Oh wow, bitter.
No, I'm not bitter. He just
No, he
didn't
just didn't
play.
play much this year. No, yeah,
No, he did not. I'll go with Zach Zinter.
oh, he's my next guy. Yeah,
Yep, I'll go with Zach Zinter. He was first team All Big Ten at guard.
he
Just a
was first
monster.
team both. Yeah, but for
Yeah,
both
just a
media.
monster. Um, as good as it gets. Getting better. Has a good chance to possibly come back next year too. Um, yeah, just really, really, really good, and one of the anchors of the arguably the best offensive line in the country. So
Who do you think steps in at center for when Olu's gone next year?
either Raheem Anderson or
Crippen?
Crippen.
Yeah,
Yeah, Crippen or
yeah,
Raheem Anderson.
yeah. I mean,
Crippen,
it's hard to be mad at
Crippen's
either
been
of those
hurt all
guys. They've,
year, so Crippen's been hurt most of the year.
yeah,
So,
I
they
expected
like
Crippen
Raheem
to get a little bit of
Anderson.
playing time this year,
Yep.
even in garbage time. But yeah, like you said, he was hurt even when they were winning. So
Yep.
they had other guys step in. But and
Yep.
then Ryan Hayes, obviously, he's going to be replaced with either Percy or Ladarius Hamilton, right?
Yep. Yep.
So
Henderson, Hamilton, something like that.
yeah, one of those guys. Yeah, the Arizona State transfer. So
Yep.
yeah, I mean, if Keegan and Zinter both stay, then that line still doesn't look like it's going to take a huge drop off.
No, no. Then you get Keegan and Zinter to stay. Then you've got El Hadi if you want to. Trente Jones will be back. I
Yep.
mean, you feel pretty darn good about it. The center position is probably your biggest question mark, but they've liked Greg Crippen for years. They, um, you know, they like Raheem Anderson, who's a year younger than Crippen. Even he's played
And
quite a bit.
Anderson could play guard too if you need him
Yeah,
to.
exactly. So you feel like the depth is there. It's just some guys. I don't know if it'll be as elite as these last 2 years, but I don't think they'll be bad at all. I think they'll be very good.
Mhm. Next, I think I'm going to take. Man, is it kind of going back and forth on a couple guys? I think I'm going to still go with Ronnie Bell here.
Okay.
He's definitely been their wide receiver one.
Mhm.
I said last game because he did every game he's good for at least one drop,
Mhm.
and sometimes unfortunately it's a big drop, but I
The
still
problem
think
is it's not even like it's drops, but to me, but it's like he just doesn't go outside of his like normal. And
yeah
he's never gonna make anything spectacular, you know what I mean? Even though sometimes occasionally he has, but like he catches, but like that one, it's like that was not an easy catch by any means. I'm not gonna just knock him like crazy, but it's like, man, that's one that just needs to be caught, though. You know what I mean?
yeah
So I
yeah
agree.
the wide receiver group as a whole this year has struggled,
Mhm.
but I think getting Bell back it's still been a big piece of the offense to keep it
I
moving down
agree.
the field. And, they, I think just to have that one guy where he's one. I mean, Cornelius Johnson stepped up against Ohio State, obviously, and played like wide receiver one. But I think Johnson's always been wide receiver two,
Mhm.
and he's accepted that. But Ronnie
Mhm.
Bell getting back from the injury at basically the same pace that he played at before the injury has been a help. So
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think he provided a safety blanket a little bit for JJ, especially early on. And he had some big games. He had over 100 yards against Indiana. I think he had a pretty big game against Maryland. So he's had some games. Um, so pretty, yeah, pretty. I mean, I think he's easily in the top 10.
and I think he's going to get drafted. He'll probably be like a
I
six,
think
maybe
so
a
too.
fifth
I
or
think he'll
sixth
be
rounder,
late.
but yeah.
He'll be a late draft pick, but I think he can definitely play in the league.
Mm-hmm.
What number is this?
I think seven. No,
Okay,
we just did seven. Wait a minute.
8.
Three. Yeah, what's eight? Yep.
Um, hmm. I'll go with Trevor Keegan.
Okay.
I know he's been in and out of the lineup, but you see a marked difference when he's in the lineup versus one of
El
the
Hadi.
other guys like El Hadi. Not that they've done poorly at all. Like El
Yeah.
Hadi's been really good. In the 4 or 5 games that he's had to play in, either sporadically in games or start in, especially early in the year. But you see the big difference when Keegan's in there and healthy, and he just moves guys.
Yeah.
He's been a beast.
He's got that. He's tenacious. He's got a
Yeah,
tenacious personality.
he's
So
not doesn't seem nice, which is awesome.
yeah,
That's what
you
you
want
want out
that
of
from
your
your
left
offensive
guard,
line.
right?
The grit.
So yeah, I think he's. I don't. Did he get all Big Ten votes? He might not have just
Egan
because he
was
was.
first team coaches, second team media.
Yeah, so all Big Ten. Um, pretty much, yeah, again, this offensive line is as good as it gets. I think you could order the offensive line pretty much any order after Oluwatimi, who, in my opinion, is number one. You can order them in any way. And they could all fit in the top 10, really, if you wanted to. So,
my next pick, and kind of going back and forth between two defensive players, but I think I'm going to go with Junior Colson.
okay.
He is, to me, he's been the best linebacker to watch since Devin Bush was there at Michigan. I think he's been an improvement over like James Ross, Hill Green, and I mean just all the other guys since Bush has left. Colson this year has been all over the field. Just his pursuit of the ball is I think he took a jump. I mean, he was pretty solid last year. I would even say argue above average last year. And I think to me,
especially for a freshman, I would agree.
Yeah, to me, he felt like he took a huge jump this year. So getting him back again next year, I think he's going to have a bright future on Sundays too. He was second team coaches, third team media, but just another really good player for the linebacker position.
Yeah, and they needed him to be really good. I mean, because the depth.
That was probably their weakest position going into the
100%, and it's probably still is from a depth standpoint. I mean, if he goes out or Barrett goes down, I mean, I know they've worked in Jimmy Rolder and Kalel Mullings, but they're just not ready, right?
Yeah,
and so that's
with Hill Green being out this year too, it's
right. If you had Nakai Hill Green, then you might have, you'd feel probably decent about it. But they've solidified it because he's played well and Mike Barrett's played well. So I think that was really important for this team to get to where they are now for him to play well.
Mike Barrett's such a good story because obviously he came and he was really good his first year.
Yeah.
There. And then the defense changed up and he still stuck with it.
Do you remember that game we went to was the first game
against Indiana in November.
He actually played a lot. And I'm like, he's out there a lot today.
And since then he hasn't really let his spot up.
No.
He's been out there pretty actively, 30 plus snaps in every game on defense now. And but yeah, I mean we'll probably talk about Mike Barrett at some point here. But yeah, I just wanted to really shout out Junior Colson here.
Yeah. I guess I'm gonna go with Donovan Edwards here.
That's a good pick.
I kind of went back and forth. I felt like he could be lower on the list. I could also say he could be higher on the list. The potential of Donovan Edwards is ridiculous. He's probably the best receiver on the team.
And now he's the best running back on the team.
Now he's the best healthy running back on the team. He's 130 yards away from 1,000 yards. So we'd have 2 1,000-yard running backs, which is crazy. That hasn't happened since Denard Robinson and Fitz Toussaint, and Denard was a quarterback. It's impressive watching what he's able to do, and he does it in the biggest games. I mean, he torched Ohio State, torched Penn State, and he torched Purdue in the Big Ten Championship, the 3 biggest games of the year. And it's just been really impressive to see what he's done. And he's getting better. You see he gets better with more carries. He figures it out. So if they can get him healthy back to where they can use him in the passing game a little bit, I think that'll be really good to see. And kind of opens up everything for this offense even more. So
yeah, I like that a lot. Oh man. I don't know if it's just because he's such a pleasant surprise, but he's probably not even the best overall defensive player, but I really want to say Mike Sainristil.
I almost pick him there too. Yeah.
I mean, he didn't necessarily get all the recognition. I mean, Joel Klatt is raving about him. I know, but that's because Klatt's done a bunch of games. Big Ten wise, he went honorable mention, but just to make that transition almost so seamlessly to play nickel corner and then even play some outside corner when players have gone down with injury, it's like Sainristil has taken on some really good receivers. He's had some huge pass breakups. And the fact that he could just step in and play probably wide receiver too on this team if they needed him. Just pure athlete. Mike Sainristil's a really good player.
Yep, and he's coming back next year, so that's good.
I saw that. That's good news.
That is good news. So yeah, he's been just that. He's bulked up, right? So he can defend the edge on the run. He's just I've never seen. You see guys flip from offense to defense all the time, right? But you don't see them immediately make that kind of impact. Sometimes they do make an impact, right? But you don't see it usually takes a year or two. You know, it doesn't usually happen like that where they're that good right away.
Yeah, I'm
Back
sure Sainer still was going to come back next year regardless, but I think it made the decision a little bit harder for him to come back
because
when
that's
the
such a
season
good
that
year.
he's had. So,
Yep. Yep. Um, all right. I will go. What number is this?
well,
12. 12th most impactful player. Jake Moody. I mean,
wrong.
normally
You know,
I
it's
won't put. Normally I am a
I put
thousand
him at
percent.
30. I put him at 30 in the preseason, and you're like, yeah, I wouldn't take special teams usually this high,
I
but
usually wouldn't take special teams that high. I really don't
he
because I don't
single-handedly
like
helped us beat Illinois
kickers.
when we really just
But
were
yeah,
pissing them
exactly.
away.
He completely held us in certain games. And when you have a kicker that's automatic from 50 on in, you know what that does? I mean, first of all, to the other team's like crap. Like, what are we gonna? I mean, we're giving up points on most
Yeah.
drives, right? And he has not missed an extra point, right? Knock on wood.
Right.
He
He had one game where I think he missed two 50-yard field goals.
Yeah, it was like a 57 or 56 and like a 52, right? And he missed them.
Yeah.
Okay, right? I
Yeah.
mean,
But
that's
every
fine.
kicker, yeah, you're never going to
Right.
find a 100%er.
Right. And he's I think he's 7 or 9 points away from the all-time record at Michigan.
Yeah.
Which is impressive. He broke his own record from last year for points in a season. So I mean he's been automatic. And when you have a guy that is automatic, like it's kind of a sense of ease, right? I never felt like he was ever gonna miss. I mean, the long ones, I thought, okay, he's probably not making this. But like anytime it was, from 52 on in pretty much, I was like, all right, he's probably making this, right?
Mhm.
Uh, and that's I don't know if I've had a sense of ease for a kicker at Michigan ever like that, I'll be honest. So
Yeah. Yeah. He's been fun. I think next year I'm going to go Ryan Hayes.
yeah.
And we talked to obviously Hayes went number 2
Mhm.
in our preseason.
Mhm.
And he's still a good tackle. And when he was out and Percy stepped in, you see a noticeable difference.
Yep, we do.
Um, but yeah, Hayes is another guy that plays. He's not quite Jake Long. He's not Taylor Lewan, but he's
Mhm.
better than Perry Dorenstein and some of these other guys that we've worked up. And so uh, I've been impressed with Ryan Hayes the last couple of years, and I think he's also going to be a guy that gets drafted this year. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I think it's safe to say that this offensive line again, like we predicted in the preseason, was going to be the biggest part of this team, and we see them, and especially in the second half, where they must have wore down the defense because by the second half they're pushing dudes all around.
Mhm. Yep. Um, I go with DJ Turner.
Yep.
Um, number one corner. It's only allowed like 45% completion percentage against him this year, which is pretty good. Only time he's ever really had issues is with like some tall receivers, um, out jumping him for some balls, and you live with some of that. Um, yeah, he's the best corner on the team. Will Johnson's out on his heels, but he's the best corner on the team. And he's made a lot of plays for this team over the last couple of years, and he's I wouldn't say he just completely locks down a side of the field, but it makes it really tough if you've got Will Johnson on one side and him on the other side, and they're both you want to go after the freshman, right? But now he's starting to make plays, right? Now he's tough. Now he's all over receivers, and then the third corner is Jamon Green, and it's like he's played a million games here too, right?
Yep.
So I think I really do think DJ Turner deserves a lot more credit maybe than he gets because he's completely eliminated some receivers this year.
Yeah, I mean, we gave it to him in the preseason. We have a 9 in the
Yep.
preseason.
Yep.
And so I think we've always believed that he was going to be a huge key point to that defense. And yeah, I mean, in games where it's like, okay, everyone else seems like they're getting open. Our pass defense looks a little lackluster. It seems like DJ Turner is at least doing his job on his
It's
side of the
almost
ball.
never the corners. It's usually the safeties or linebackers in coverage,
Yeah.
it seems like, which
Yeah.
that's fine, right? Okay, then right? Then the corners have they got it taken care of.
Uh, man, I want to say Give me Luke Schoonmaker.
Okay. Yeah.
Stepped in big when Eric All went down and kind of just probably the reason Eric All is transferring. We seems like they never skipped a beat, whether it was Loveland or whether it was Schoonmaker in there.
Mhm.
Um, just Schoonmaker was, I think he's second in the team in receptions,
Mhm.
and that's with him missing 2 or 3 games.
Mhm.
So, kind of just that he's been like that underneath guy that, like the Chiefs, had Travis Kelsey. Like you're gonna have guys, safeties are gonna have to go back, but you always got Schoonmaker as like that safety valve underneath. And I felt like Schoonmaker, Jim Harbaugh said himself last week that he's gonna be playing on Sundays.
Yep.
So
Yep.
sad to see him go, but again, we talked about it too all year in our previews of other games. Tight end is like the least of our concern right now. Despite us losing 5 tight ends this offseason, we've got Colson Loveland and Max Bredesen and Matthew Hibner.
Mhm.
So it's like, yeah, it's hard to be worried.
Yep. Yeah, I'm not too concerned. Um, what number is this?
This would be number 16.
All right. Um, I'm gonna go with Rod Moore.
Okay.
Another guy that's kind of missed a little bit of time at the beginning of the year with some injury stuff. Um, but I think you could see the difference. He's just a really, really smart, good football player. Physical tools aren't going to jump out at you. Not that they're terrible by any means. They're you know upper echelon, but they're not going to jump out at you like some safeties that we've had in the past. He's not Dax Hill out there, but he's always in the right position. Why he's got the 2 or 3 interceptions he's got this year, just because he's in the right position. Um, and he's calling the defense back there. He knows where to be, and he's a sure tackler, right? And that's the biggest compliment I can give most DBs and especially safeties is that they're boring. I want a boring safety. I don't want them. I mean, it's great if they can make big plays, right? But I want a safety that I never have to yell at the TV about, right? I want somebody like perfect example, Ohio State safeties. They're not boring, right? Their safeties we're getting yelled at by their fans, during that game, right? Michigan
I just
safeties,
remember 2 years ago we're not that far removed from Makari Page and Hunter Reynolds, just
right?
constantly making me yell at the TV their first that first year with
Exactly,
Makari Page.
exactly.
And
And Makari Page could end up on this list. We'll see.
yeah.
But he's been awesome too, right? So it's a boring, well coached safety is perfect. A guy who's in the right position and he tackles guys, sure tackler, and that's Rodmore to a T. So
That's a good pick. Give me Michael Barrett here, though. We kind of touched on him a little earlier, but again, this guy that came to this school recruited as a Viper position to replace Khaleke Hudson and Jabril Peppers and kind of fill that position that Michigan was very niche in running. And then obviously when McDonald and now Minter are here, they've just implemented a different defense and it didn't necessarily fit with Michael Barrett, but he has adjusted and he has built his position at linebacker admirably. And so I think with his veteran leadership, he struggled a little bit against Purdue that the first half. Not gonna lie,
the
missed some
pass coverage,
tackles.
pass
Yeah,
protection.
pass coverage looked a little lost. He missed a couple tackles, but he figured it out. I don't know. He was a big reason why the second half adjustments were made on defense and stops were had. So Michael Barrett, just with his athleticism, be able to plug and play kind of anywhere on that field. You wonder how he'd feel if Nikhai Hill-Green was healthy. He could probably just easily play the other linebacker spot. It just seems like wherever they need him, they'll put him, and he just does the job.
Yep, I agree. He's been really good. Gotten himself better. Like you said, I mean, he was kind of an afterthought at the beginning of last year because he just didn't have a position on the defense, and he changed his body a little bit. He added more weight. He did what he had to do to learn the defense, and now you see where he's at. It's impressive because a lot of guys would have just left, and gone to a different defense, but he stuck it out, which is awesome. I'm gonna go with Carson Barnhart here.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Could I go Carson Barnhart / Trente Jones? Is that allowed? No, but I'll go Carson Barnhart. He is the reason I'll go with him is, and had Trente Jones never gotten hurt, then maybe he would have been right here too or higher. But Barnhart won the job even after Jones got healthy again. And he's gotten better and better. I know early on you saw some some run game hiccups and some stuff where it's like, he's just not the same guy as Jones. But
Mhm.
he's surpassed him at this point, and he's gotten really, really good. And it's really cool to see a guy just continue to get better, and when he gets his shot, kind of hold off the starter when he comes back. So it's
It is in that defense. It is really hard to compete with Trente Jones in the run game. Trente
yeah,
Jones is incredible run blocker. His pass protection is there's a little bit of liability there,
yeah.
but I can see how you would want to put a slash here with them because it seems like they each have their thing that they're very good at. But I think with Trente being very good at one thing and not so good at the other, but Carson being like serviceable, solid at both, I think that's kind of what puts him ahead. Is
Well,
the
that, and I don't think
consistency.
they really wanted to. Part of the reason why I think he kept the job is that they were playing so well, and he was playing well, and there's no reason to change up that continuity, right? If not, if unless it's just obvious, right? And if obviously it wasn't obvious, right?
Yeah.
And it took Trente a while, like up until like a couple weeks left in the regular season before he even was able to come back. So at that point, I don't think he changed anything. So I think it was the right move.
Yeah. So where Andrell Anthony went in the preseason, I am taking Jalen Harrell
Okay.
here.
Yeah.
And again, another guy that's made a move, added a little bit of weight himself to
Mm-hmm.
play edge rusher.
Mm-hmm.
After he played mostly linebacker last year. Obviously had some edge rush. He was able to kind of fill in where they needed him. But he's taken a huge step, I think, again this year and been a key part to even when Mike Morris has been absent, him and Yabi Yoki and Derek Moore and obviously Mason Graham has been big in the interior too. It's uh, we're seeing the reason that they're still able to make it work on that defensive front.
Yep.
So I think a big part of that is Jalen Harrell's consistency at that position.
Yeah. I like that. Um. hmm, It's just tough.
Yeah. And now we're at 20. It does get tough.
I'll go with Will Johnson.
Ooh, that's a good one.
He's he started. I mean, he started against Ohio State. He had the most cornerback snaps against Ohio State, right? And he had the same against Purdue, right? So
Mm-hmm.
he's become cornerback one, right? For the most part. He's making it harder for them to take him off the field, right? Because he's a playmaker and he's starting to figure out how to use his length. He's starting to figure out what team's trying to do, right? The second interception he got, he even talked about it after the game. He said, I knew the play because I knew the formation and I broke on it. I knew what was going on because I studied film. I knew it was going to happen, right? That's rare for a freshman, even later in the year. That doesn't really happen for freshman corners, right? Um, so to see that already and him already making plays, he's got 3 interceptions this year. Um, Sky's the limit for him. And I think we're going to keep seeing him to continue to get better and better and better because he's still really young, and he's got the chance to be the next great corner. And he's taller than a lot of the really really good corners we've had. We had a run there for a while there, the Jordan Lewis, Channing Stribling, uh,
Bobakar
David.
Sissoko.
No, he's throw him off a cliff. David Long, Wilbur Hill. We had a
E.T.
run there of
Floyd.
some really good cornerback play. Blake Countess, even before that, I wouldn't say. We had
Donovan Warren. Leon Hall. How far
we
back are we
had a
going?
stretch of some really good cornerback play, right?
Troy Wolfhook.
No, don't name anybody from the Rich Rodriguez era. Doesn't count. But he had some run of some good corners, right? Especially mostly under Harbaugh from 2015 to 2018, let's say, right? And it kind of fell off for a while there. We had, early Jamon Green playing, and that was bad. And, Lavert Hill kind of took not a nosedive, but he kind of struggled a little bit later on in his career, right? And he's the next great one. And the difference between him and some of those other guys, all those guys were on the shorter side. Even DJ Turner's like probably not even 6 feet, right? Um, Will Johnson's 6'2" and super long and also super fast. And
Wasn't it? I feel like Rich Rod has some good guys on that. Jordan
no,
Kovacs was on those rosters, and
Jordan Horwitz was a Hoke guy.
was he?
Yes.
Okay. Uh, man, then You know what?
I
Yeah,
promise you, if you look up those stats, it is the most horrendous pass defense you will ever see. It's
I
not
thought
good.
I thought Troy Wolfolk was fine. He thought he
He
was.
was fine. He's a
Donovan
good
Warren was
player.
on that team. Donovan Warren was on those defenses.
Yeah, but he was like he had to play right away out of necessity.
I felt like we were only strong at the linebacker position because we had Jonas Mouton and Obi Aze.
I mean,
I felt
Donovan
like those
Warren. Donovan Warren was an undrafted free agent. I
was he
mean,
but he lasted a little bit, didn't he?
2010 to 2012.
Was Desmond Morgan Hoke?
Desmond Morgan was a linebacker,
Right. I
but
mean, he was quarterback at West Ottawa, but then he went to linebacker.
he was a Hoke guy. He might have started at Rich Rod, but he was a Hoke guy. Um,
Delonte Hollowell.
he was bad.
I'm
No,
just I'm like I
Courtney
am
Avery. We had some bad ones.
Kenny Demmons, James Ross.
Yeah, some of those were Hoke guys.
Yeah, you're right. It was pretty rough at that time.
So
Was
I
it
mean,
Morgan Trent?
Morgan
Uh,
Trent was fast. That's it.
yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So
Well, yeah,
we had some bad
that's
ones there for a minute.
it
So we've
was
had a
I
good
mean that
stretch here.
Tampa 2 did not work for Michigan at all.
No.
So I'm gonna go with another corner. I'm gonna go with Jamon Green.
Okay.
Obviously, it's getting harder for him to get his normal playing time with Will Johnson out there, and Mike Sanders still being an incredible nickel corner. But now you have four corners that you're like, we could run dime all day long and not feel bad about it. Like honestly,
No,
um,
no, I don't
I
worry at all
yes,
about the DBs.
yeah, Jamon Green. Obviously, I mean he was honorable mention for both coaches and media.
Mhm.
Um, and obviously he was notorious for his in the locker room, um, getting getting a beat down with Jane McBurrows from Michigan State Thugs. But uh, yeah, I think Jamon Green was a more than serviceable corner. I think obviously DJ Turner was better, and I think Will Johnson will pass Jamon Green at some point.
Mhm.
Overall talent, um, but still young, and I think he's already really close. But Jamon Green uh, definitely set a good precedent for Will Johnson to pursue to be
Uh-huh.
better and become this true freshman that we thought he was.
Yep. What number are we at?
This
This
is
is
the
it.
last Mr. Irrelevant. This is
Oh
22
man. Um.
wins.
hmm.
He's actually been pretty crappy the last couple of games.
Ooh, Jamon Green,
No, Brad Robbins.
Brad Robbins. Yeah, he doesn't. Sorry, I think he's hurt. I
Yeah.
really do. Um. Man, this is tough.
Yeah, I know. You don't want who do you want to leave off? I mean, there's
Well, it's not even necessarily about leaving guys off. I just feel like everybody is at this like even level, kind of where everybody's playing pretty well. Um.
the only one I can think. I mean, this is your pick, but I
Think of
mean,
a couple guys for sure.
yeah, Chris Jenkins comes to mind.
Yeah,
Mason Graham has
Jenkins,
been
Mason Graham's been awesome, but I would put Jenkins above Graham because
Makari Page is on that list. I don't
Page, Cornelius
AJ Henning,
Johnson.
AJ Henning, maybe.
No, no, he hasn't done enough on offense. Cornelius Johnson,
You
Roman
should
Wilson.
though. I really thought AJ Henning would be more part of this offense, but
He's just not a good receiver. He's a gadget guy. I'll go with
Hmm.
Cornelius Johnson.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Just, I mean, he's got probably 30 catches, maybe 430 yards, something like that, 6 touchdowns, something like that.
Mhm.
Um, but big plays. He's made some big plays this year. Huge against Ohio State. I think, now that we've got some confidence in JJ, I think going downfield a little bit more. Hopefully in the next 2 games he can continue to make some big plays. And he's just, I know I was kind of down on him before the Ohio State game, but he's continued to make big plays. He just really broke out against them, and that's what a senior needs to do. So it's impressive, and I'll put him on the list mostly just because of that game. But he is a threat because he is fast. So
So the players that were on our preseason top 22 that were not on this one
mhm.
would be Eric All was at 5.
Yeah,
Then we've got Cade McNamara at 13.
well,
I mean JJ was on this list though. We had JJ at 20. So
yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I just didn't know about who was gonna, we didn't know the starter, we didn't know the situation yet.
RJ Moten, who's actually still been fine. He was at 16. Angelo Anthony was at 18. And I think that's it. I think so. I think what five? Oh, Chris Jenkins was at 19.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and all those guys, I mean, for other than, I don't know if I put Angelo in there, but
No.
RJ Moten I would consider. Obviously, McNamara and all.
Yeah,
You
but
know,
I mean, all might have been there if he didn't get hurt, and McNamara,
probably
if he
for sure would have been there
yeah, and
if
if
we.
McNamara was the starter all year, he probably would have still been in there. You know what I mean? Like if we did this list, but if McNamara was a starter all year, I don't think they're undefeated. So that's we
It
wouldn't be as excited talking about than some of this stuff.
it's so at 50 we had Julius Welshoff.
Yeah,
Um,
not making the list anymore.
I just
Hadn't played.
I'm trying to think. Look who was we had. So Yabioki was at 61.
Okay.
Jimmy Rolder at 60. Alex Orgy we had at 59. Davis Warren we did have at least above him. Um, but wow, it's so the next one on that would have been Taylor Upshaw, which he's been good.
Oki'd be up there in the top 30.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yabioki. Mason, I also would put Mason Graham closer up.
Uh-huh.
Mason Graham we had at 33, which for a true freshman, that's not bad. In fact, I think Will Johnson we had at 31 and Mason Graham at 33, and those were our top freshmen.
Yeah.
So yeah, obviously, and Caden Colsar got hurt. We had him at 42.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and Derek Moore at 41. So we are actually not too far off on some of these true freshmen as
Yeah.
well. That I don't know. It's just interesting to look back and see how the season's progressed and playing time and success. So,
And then Colston Loveland, I don't know if he was on the list, and I think we put
I
him.
don't think we did put him on the
I
list.
think he'd be in the top. He'd be in the top 35 at least.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we had Cam Good on this list, but he hasn't played much. Darius Clemens, we did. Kenneth Grant, we had at 45.
Okay.
He's got some playing time in there. So
Played quite a bit lately too. Yeah.
yeah, no Loveland on this list, no Bredesen. Yeah, so but yeah, so Eric All obviously transferring. And Cade McNamara has announced he's transferring. Lewis Hanson's announced he's transferring,
Yeah.
our seventh tight end. But
Yeah.
do you have any other predictions on who you think is going to be out?
I'm sure there'll be a receiver or two.
People talk Roman Wilson and Andrew Anthony.
I don't think Roman's going anywhere. Anthony, I don't know. I think they'd probably both stay. I think they're
I would
probably.
actually be proud of Anthony if he stayed and
I
tried to
think
get
there
better.
will be the top two coming back next year is the reason. Like, I mean, you've got Ronnie and Cornelius Johnson leaving.
I mean, you hope Darius Clemens and like Tyler
Right, but
Morris.
you've got the freshman class that is really talented stepping in, right? But they, you got to have two guys coming back that'll kind of lead them on, right? And I think, it's not really for lack of playing time for Andrell Anthony. He's still getting a lot of snaps. He's just, he's not getting the ball, and he hasn't made the most of his.
And when he
own
does get the targets, he's running poor routes and
and
dropping the
he's
ball.
dropping some balls. So I mean, I can't put it really on anybody other than him on some of the stuff, right? They've missed him too on some for sure.
It is interesting though when they're like, I'm going to leave to a bet. Like your team is undefeated and going to the college football playoff. Why do you think you're going to have it better?
Right. Yeah, and you know what? To each his own, right? There could be extenuating.
I mean, you're betting on yourself at that
You could
point
do
for
whatever,
for NFL.
Sure, and there could be different circumstances, and who knows, right? I'm not. I don't really care. If guy wants to go, it's then wish him good luck and move on. It is the way I look at it.
Yeah, no reason to be a jerk about it or anything. But
Right. All those
I don't know
guys.
if I think I just don't appreciate the way all did that.
Sure.
Like, yeah, I wish all the best, and I don't like people that are crap talking all by any means because he pretty much
Well,
won us
it sounds
against
like
Penn State.
yeah, it sounds like he just didn't appreciate the way some things were handled with his injury, which okay. Yeah, and that's fine, right? To me, I agree. I mean, I'm not in his shoes though, right? So I don't know exactly how it happened. So I'm not gonna sit there and like blame or point or whatever, but I agree. I would just have handled it with, you would like to see it handled with just like, hey, just move on, man. You're already leaving. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
right?
We don't need a
He
reason. You don't have to
made,
justify your
yeah, you don't have
decision
to justify it. Nobody,
or put something cryptic up to make us fight.
right. And that's my whole thing too. If you're gonna say something about it, then just say it or
Yeah,
don't. Right? Why? I
exactly.
mean, because when you put it up cryptic, what that means to me, it sounds like you're just either making something up or you're just trying to start a problem when there doesn't need to be one.
Yeah.
So again, though, yeah, I think Michigan in the end will come out a net positive in the portal, from just not necessarily more players coming in than leaving, but just in
But
general
quality of players. Yeah.
quality and locker room fits and stuff like that. You're gonna have guys leave. It's just it is what it is at this point.
That's what college football is now. It's, you know,
There's over 1,000 players in the portal right now, which is absurd because there's not enough spots to fill those guys. Some of these guys are going to be looking for jobs next year because they're not going to be
some
on
of
the
these
team.
guys are just gonna have to suck it up and go play D3 now because they
And
bet
some
on
of these guys aren't
themselves.
going to go play, right?
Yeah.
Not going to go find a place to play, which is crazy, right? And some of these guys will just end up going back to their old school, right? They'll just pull their names out and they'll figure it out. But
Yeah.
um, Michigan will be, I think they'll be pretty active looking for some guys. Obviously, they got the tackle from Arizona State today.
Yeah.
So I think
But
there'll
like we
be,
noticed, I mean, they had guys leave last year too, but then we still got quality. Like Oluwatimi was huge,
yep,
and so it's like Yabioki was a nice get. So
a late get in the portal. So I think they know what they're looking for. They've done a good job with the portal. Um, you know, and they understand. I think they understand it can be hit or miss, right? So, uh, they're looking for some guys that fill holes and fill depth. I think, right? A Cam Good is not a bad pickup, right? I think he fully knew that he probably wasn't going to come in and be a starter, right? But he's going to come in and he's going to work really hard and he's going to fill depth, right? And then they're looking for some guys to plug some holes. Other than that, you kind of keep everybody around.